Good morning, real life traders. Let me know. Can you hear me okay? Okay, you can hear me now. That's weird. I don't know why. Because normally, Tony, you can hear the the audio from that, right? Huh. Very strange. All right, give me 2 seconds. I got to move some stuff around and then I will do a different screen share. Welcome RLT members. Welcome everyone out there on YouTube. Happy Friday. Hope everyone is having a great morning so far. Give me a second here. Let's change to a different screen. What screen am I going to? Hang on a second. Too many screens. Let's see, screen 4. Move this out of the way. All right, so just make sure you should be seeing my screen with the broader markets. Just give me a 1. Hey, Carolyn, good morning. Chuck, Win, Attorney Dan, give me a 1 if just make sure you can see my screen with the, okay, awesome, thank you. Cool, okay, great. Again, thank you for being here. Happy Friday morning. Interesting day in the markets yesterday. Let's see. I mean, Thursday, let's go back to Thursday. Thursday was just chop city, whipsaw. Even though the market and most of the tickers ended up moving bullish, still a lot of chop in the market. And I know I've been communicating with a bunch of you about just how difficult this market is to trade right now. And it is. So you're not alone. So I'm going to make sure everybody there who might be going, why am I having such a hard time trading this market? Well, 99% of the people are. So don't feel like you're alone. And that's part of why we are in this community, so that we have support for each other and we can, share our frustrations and support each other. So let's, again, take a look at the broader markets. Let me zoom out here a little bit on, so again, we are still not well above, but we're above this trend line that we finally broke. But if you recall, I had talked about last week that last Friday, good morning, Rock. Chuck says, I'm a new trader, the only market I've traded in. Well, that's good, because Chuck, here's the deal. If you can survive this market, you're going to kill it when the market gets easier to trade. So hang in there. Hey, Lucian. So anyway, we are above that trend line. And, I've been saying for the last week or so that, do not be surprised if we come down and we retest this trend line. Now, are we going to come all the way down to the trend line? I don't know, but, we're very close to breaking this pivot right here. And if we do, we're coming down, right? So we have, the good news is we have the 200 here. We have the 50. These are the simple moving averages on the daily. And we could easily come down, bounce off the 50. We could come down to 200 and bounce there. But we also have the 100 that's getting ready to cross this trend line. So again, I'm anticipating a retest of that trend line. Again, how close we get to it, I don't know, but that's been my anticipation ever since we broke this trend line and held above it, that it would come back and retest that before it goes bullish from there. So same look here on the NASDAQ. I'm not going to spend too much time on the broader markets right now because there's a bunch of tickers I want to look at. We got a lot of stuff gapping down today. So let's we're going to see if we can find ideally some gap and goes to try to trade in addition to the normal tickers that we trade. Yesterday, I ended up getting into Roku, which was Roku was a really good trade yesterday, and it was just a monster. Just kept pushing higher and higher. That is right there. That's the power of Roku, is the power of earnings. Okay, so when you are an Attorney Dan saying thank you for helping us identify gap and go. So the power of gaps. And especially when you have a good catalyst behind it. And Roku is a really good example yesterday where, the market right? The market sold off. The market was weak. It was not, yesterday was not a strong day for going bullish, but Roku did something completely opposite of the market. And that, again, that was because of earnings, and it was a gap. And so earnings plus gap equals a great thing to trade. So anytime that we are into earnings, definitely be looking for those earnings plays. It's a great catalyst. Look for those gaps. All right. So what are we looking at today? Well, we are looking at a gap down, right? So big bearish candles from yesterday on the S&P and the NASDAQ. Looking at the futures, we are going to be gapping down. So here's the look from for SPY and for the Qs. So Qs, we're going to be gapping down below this, the 10 EMA, likely gapping below it. Possible here on the SPY that will gap below this 20 on the daily. But again, we won't know until the market opens. We'll just keep an eye on it. But right now things are, well, I mean, actually, after they made this low here and it came down, kind of double bottom, and now things are making a series of higher highs and higher lows. So who knows? I mean, this could just get bought up. Yeah, Rock is throwing on DraftKings. I saw that. That's on the list. So, we'll wait and see. We have another 24 minutes before the market opens. We'll just, we'll track and see what the markets are doing, going into the open. But again, all that goes out the window as soon as the market opens, because the market's going to do what it's going to do. And if, if it starts selling off, it's going to sell off. If it gets bought up, it's going to get bought up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to trade what we see, not what we think, right? So let's go into our individual tickers. Let me change my share. Let's go into here. So I have Apple up here right now. So we'll just take a look at Apple real quick. I mean, look at this shooting star here yesterday, right? Look, I mean, at one point, nice bullish candle, and then it just completely got hammered, sold off. So we are going to be looking right now. Currently, we are gapping down, right? So retest gap. Okay, so again, talking about the types of gaps, so retest gap versus gap and go. Retest gap, not as strong of a gap as a gap and go, but still a good gap. Question is this going to clear any pivots? How strong is this gap? And right now we are looking at, we're right down in here, right? And so it's not that strong of a gap. So yes, it's like, okay, it's gapping down, but then you have to qualify it and say, okay, well, how strong is that gap? And yes, we are gapping, but we're still within the price range here. We have the, this is the 10 on the daily. So we'll have to see where we open. And again, we'll have to watch the broader markets to see what they're doing. But we do have some moving averages down here in and around the price area on Apple. But what's interesting about it is, and again, so I've talked about this, and I guess I've been talking about it for well over a week now. We are still inside this candle, right? So look at Apple. If you think about what Apple is doing, all it's doing right now is building a ton of pressure. All this consolidation, right? Inside of this candle is just, think about like a time bomb that is just ticking, just building pressure, getting ready to go off. It's smoldering, and then also boom, it's going to explode. At some point, it's got to break this candle. And again, I don't know whether it's going to break higher or lower, but all of this pressure right here is just, building. And so keep an eye on that. We are still inside this candle, right? This many days out. Let's take a look at, let me see. Let me make some notes here. We got BABA we're going to look at. We're going to look at DraftKings. All right, let's go to NVIDIA. Start picking up the pace here, because there are a bunch on my scanner. I did see a lot of stocks to take a look at. Okay, NVIDIA. So again, inside candle. Think about this. Think about what to expect. We're still inside this day, okay? So this is, we didn't break it here, we didn't break it here. We're still inside this candle. So be aware of that an inside candle, inside is usually chop. And that's exactly what we've had the last couple of days, right? We've had a lot of chop. It's hard to get into something that, if you look at this chart here, get in long, it pulls back, get in short, it goes up. I mean, it's just, granted, this did ultimately go up here yesterday, right? And then it just had a big sell-off towards the end, but still there's a lot of chop in the market. But we are still inside of this candle, this Valentine's Day candle, I just noticed. So do expect chop. We have the 10 EMA right here, right around this current price action where we are pre-market, right? So here's the 10 EMA. We have the high and the low mapped out. So we'll have to wait and see what where NVIDIA opens and how it moves. But just remember that we are still inside. So there's Apple, there's NVIDIA, inside days still to a previous day. Tesla. Okay, Tesla, not an inside day, right? A lot of selling yesterday and pretty good bearish volume. Take a look at that volume, right, on Tesla. Currently looking at a gap down on Tesla. Again, a retest gap, right? So we had a bearish day yesterday. So a bearish day gapping down, right? Let me just quickly go back. Because I want to touch on this, right? So let me go back to Apple. Okay, so yes, we have bullish candle gapping down. So Attorney Dan was talking about, so technically gap and go, right? If we open below this, it's a gap and go, but you have to qualify it. How strong is that gap and go? The question you need to ask yourself is, if price opens right around right now, looking at the pre-market high right here, if it opens there, fear and greed, that is the litmus test. How much fear and greed is that gap causing? And it's not, right? Again, because it is all of these inside days to this candle, there is no fear and greed with this gap, right? So yes, it's a gap and go technically, but that doesn't mean it's a good gap and go. So just, you have to, when you look at these, you have to just analyze it that way and think about how good of a gap it is. Meant to go to NVIDIA. Okay. So looking at NVIDIA, okay, NVIDIA is going to be a retest gap if we open below that. So, so far Apple is technically a gap and go, but it's not a great gap and go. NVIDIA retest gap. Tesla, let's go back to it. If I can type properly. Fat fingered that one, huh? All right, so Tesla, it's going to be a retest gap. If we open below yesterday's candle, retest gap. We do have the 10 EMA right here. Down here, we have the 20 and the 100 crossing. So we do have some support down here. We are we're coming back into this zone of not being overbought. So we'll wait and see when the market opens, see what Tesla does. I mean, the way Tesla has been behaving, right? It could gap down and then just get bought up. So again, we will trade what we see, not what we think. Amazon looking at also at a retest gap. Let me adjust some lines here. No, I'm okay with this. Looking at a retest gap on Amazon. Let me move this up a little bit. Right. But again, thinking about the gaps, is it clearing any pivots? Well, it's not going to clear this pivot. Right now we are at, 96.21 is way down here. So we're not clearing any pivots. Again, when you are looking at a, how often are you on the mic? Morning, Stephen. Attorney Dan, I'm on definitely in the mornings, I'm on every other Friday. So this is one of those Fridays. Could you try? Oh, I'm not talking to you. I'm on every other Friday, and then I fill in during the week. So like this week, I've been on a few times during the morning for Dan, because Dan was down playing with Mickey. So so it all depends, Dan. But usually definitely every other Friday. And then I do a lot of the afternoons, right? So I'm on today from 2 to 3:30 doing the Talking Real Life Trading. All right, so retest gap here. Again, not, think about the gap, analyze, are people, are they scared? Are they elated? And the answer is no. It's just, it's a little bit of a micro gap so far. on the open. It's not creating a lot of fear and greed. It's not clearing this pivot. So again, when you are analyzing these gaps, just temper your expectations in terms of based on what that gap is. All right. AMD. Okay. AMD. Pretty bearish candle yesterday, right? We can all agree. Now, okay. Pretty much a shaved bottom. Okay. So if you recall earlier in the week, I was talking about shaved tops. Okay. Oh, Attorney Dan, thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Very, very nice of you. Actually, you know what? I apologize. I have to expand the, all right, there we go. Sorry. I could not see the chat for YouTube. I want to make sure I wasn't missing any questions over there. Randall's here. Good morning, Randall. All right. So I talked about earlier in the week, I talked about shaved tops, right? So on a day where there's a shaved top, I expect some type of a retest into that candle. Well, same thing with shaved bottoms, right? So we have pretty much a shaved bottom here. There's a tiny bit, if you can see it, there's a tiny little bit of a wick down there, but for the most part, it's a shaved bottom. So shaved bottoms, I do expect a retest into, and especially since this is a bearish candle gapping down, you do expect a retest. It's a retest gap. So anywhere from 30 to 50% retest into this candle before it rolls over, if it rolls over, right? But again, that's just a general principle that I follow, and it doesn't mean it's true every time. No, but from experience and for the most part, that is what I have come to expect when I see shaved tops and shaved bottoms. All right. Roku. Let's take a look at Roku real quick. Roku is, I mean, yesterday it was just a beast, right? So, and I'll tell you, I mean, talk about getting out too early. So I got into this trade. I knew that. So, and great example here of why why you need to know where the higher time frame moving averages are. So I got into Roku yesterday, and I knew that this weekly 50 was here, and that was what I targeted pretty much for my. I stepped in front of it for my target, but that's what I was looking at. And if I draw this line here, right, this line right there, that high, I mean, yes, it got through there, but then it got rejected. So the moving averages like that are going to act like magnets. They're going to pull price towards it, and then it could easily reject it. So, I mean, look at this candle, shooting star. I mean, at one point, I mean, it was just a monster bullish move yesterday when the market was looking weaker, and then the bears stepped in and just punched it in the face, and boom, here down it goes. So what could you expect if you, on a longer term, like, you know, a few days, you know, next week, what could you be looking at? Well, there's certainly this gap to fill, right? So you have this shooting star here. You do have the 200 right here that will provide some support. Right now we are opening inside of yesterday's price action. So you've got an inside candle. So you will be expecting some chop there. But I could see this. I mean, that was, I mean, look at that amount of that volume. Look at the volume on this candle, and it was weak. I mean, that's not a strong bullish candle. Chuck, this is actually this is a indicator that I purchased. It's not something that is included in Thinkorswim. So I purchased it, and what it does is any time frame that I'm on, if I'm on a 5-minute, it will show me where the 15-minute moving averages are. If I'm on the daily, it's going to show me the weekly. If I'm on the weekly, it's going to show me the monthly. So just something that I picked up. And I mean, I love it because I don't have to sit there and switch through higher time frames, just looking for the moving averages. So because they're automatically plotted for me. So you could expect some type of a gap fill here. Wait and see. But I mean, again, I was talking about this volume, that amount of volume, and that is not a strong close. So weak looking candle on Roku, even though it was very, very strong yesterday. Let's take a look at a couple of the ones, a couple of the tickers people are throwing out. BABA. All right. So BABA. Okay. There you go. There's a gap and go. Let's take a look at BABA. I'm going to throw BABA on a, where am I going to put it? I think I'm going to put it where Roku was. I'm putting on a different chart. Although I don't know, and I could look it up because I think, was it Lucian? I forget, and if I'm wrong about who shared it, but somebody shared the full list of the tickers that are traded on the funded account. My guess is BABA is not one of them. And if I'm wrong about it being Lucian sharing that, my apologies. I'm trying to remember. It was a couple of days ago. But anyway, my guess is that BABA is not on the funded account. So if you're trading the funded account, just be aware of that. But this is, I mean, look at this. So let's take a look at this gap. Right now, price action is, let's just throw in a line right here. Okay. So we're gapping down. So this is a nice gap and go. Okay. So definitely have this on your list. And why do I think it's a nice gap and go? Well, a couple of things. First of all, you're clearing, right now we're clearing all three of these candles. So when I talked before about fear and greed, anybody who went long here, right off this 50. Now, and you have to imagine that 50, this candle right here, there were tons of orders just sitting right there on that 50 that were just blind, limit buys because people were expecting a bounce off that 50. And sure enough, that came in there. And if you got triggered right off of that 50, think about how excited you were when you're like, I nailed that entry. That was the best entry ever. I am the greatest trader that's ever walked the face of the earth, right? Because you nailed the entry, you ended up with that beautiful hammer, and now you're thinking, that's it. That's the bounce. It's going to bounce right off that 50 and it's going to go up. Well, then you got people on these 2 days who also jumped in thinking, oh, I've got a chance. It's still holding that 50. I've got a chance to get in. Now it is gapping below there. So anybody who bought right here, and look at the volume, right? Look at the volume. The volume picked up, right? So people also were looking at going, okay, bullish volume picking up. Well, anybody who bought on these 3 days is now trapped, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to panic. Well, not all of them, but a good number of them are going to panic, and they're going to try to get out of their position so that they minimize their loss, right? So there is a nice gap and go. And look at this, we have nothing but wide open space here, right? And there's a gap fill here that this gap has yet to fill. So there's a potential gap fill opportunity. You have the next moving average is down here, this weekly, down at 94.45, so call it 94.50, just to get into a round number. So there's room for BABA to run. Okay, what's the news? Not even. So anyway, there's I'm not going to go into all the news, but nothing that jumps out as like a in your face news item. I mean, high flying Chinese financier is missing. I don't know. Alex, psychologically, whole numbers, right? Definitely, right? So I've referred to these, and not my original. I'll have to give credit to Clay Hubner, who is where I picked this up from. But they're granny numbers, right? So whole numbers, granny numbers. People love whole numbers, right? So whether it's a number like 100 or 150 or $10 or 1050, like they love those. So any whole or half, any combination of that, definitely those are numbers that people love. So I either step in front or step below, depending on what I'm doing. I don't like to use a whole number for anything. I don't use it for a stop. For an entry, I'll always step in front to make sure that I get filled if I'm trying to go long. But yeah, so I definitely think that whole numbers are something that to be aware of. So BABA, okay, so gap and go. Where are we right now? Right, so price action is holding this this line that I have right here, right? So watch for BABA, watch on the open, see especially if you can get a little bit of buying coming in initially on BABA, and then look for it to roll. Let's take a look at DraftKings. we have 5 more minutes. So DraftKings, okay. So we are looking at also a gap and go, right? So we have a bear candle yesterday gapping up. Price action right now is 2022. So somewhere around right here. Let's extend it to the left. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Okay. So if you're going to get into DraftKings, okay, yes, it's a nice gap and go, but how much is it? I think it's up quite a bit right now. It is up. Yeah, DraftKings is up 12%. Okay. So doesn't meet my plan, right? If I'm looking for something in the gap, I want to see it gapping anywhere from 2 to 7%. DraftKings right now is up 12%. So am I going to be eager to jump into DraftKings for a trade? No, because right now, look where it's gapping. Okay. So it's already up 12%. You have this level right here that you definitely need to be aware of, that 2150 area for a target. Okay. Because that will be the next level of resistance here, right? But something gapping that much, I actually would be, now granted, I can't do it because my trading plan says I cannot fade gap and goes, but this would be one that I would potentially, if I could fade gap and goes, I would probably look to try to fade it off of here. What's the catalyst? Let me go zoom in a little bit here. So, okay, so it's earnings, right? So earnings, let's see. Okay, so they lost less than they expected. So it is an earnings play. So, it could, because it does have that catalyst, it could run, but you need to be aware that is already up 12%, right? I mean, how much more? It could just gap up there and it could just go sideways, but you do need to be aware of where it's gapping and where that next level of overhead resistance is. All right, let me go to my scanner here. We have 3 more minutes. Go to the scanner. Let me see if there's anything jumping out at me. So we're looking at definitely more bearish than bullish right now, even though the market, pre-market right now, is still making higher highs and higher lows. But let's just see if there's anything that is doing the opposite of the market right now. That is not up 12%. DoorDash, right, is potentially gapping up. Right now, it's kind of right near here. Just be aware if you were going to get into DoorDash, what this high is right here. This is also an earnings play. So that's the catalyst here, but it's already made its move pre-market. And I think that Dan was talking about yesterday, that that a lot of these moves that we're hoping to have during, not a lot of volume. A lot of these moves that we're looking for are actually happening after hours of pre-market, and then the stock opens and it just chops around and goes sideways. I think that was Dan who was saying that, but again, there's a great example, right? Earnings came out, made that move, huge move, and now it's just kind of going sideways, right? And it's going sideways right near the high. Let's see if there's anything bearish that we can look at. Snow, right? I'm looking for in the last couple of minutes here, or 1 minute, I'm looking for some type of a gap and go. I mean, chances are most everything, yes. Okay, here we, nope, it's going to open inside. Zillow was gapping down, but it's not clearing any level. All right. No, and that's the other thing. I don't trade precious metals. I don't know if that's one of my rules. I just don't enjoy trading precious metals. Never has worked out very well for me. So that's precious metals. Again, that's just my own rules. All right, there's the bell. Market is open. I'm going to have to sign off on YouTube if I can find that screen. Okay, and Randall did confirm on YouTube that Baba is not on 8cat, right? So the funded account. Okay, so everyone out there on YouTube, thank you for being with us the last 30 minutes. Hope you have an amazing weekend and good luck trading today. And as always, if you would like to be a part of this amazing community, come on over to reallifetrading.com, sign up for the All Access Pass. You can be with us from 9 in the morning until 6